Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Newsfirst Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst Centre in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudannayacker. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening. Almost home, 2 Sri Lankans held hostage by Somali pirates for more than 3 years released. 73 Indian fishermen arrested for violating Sri Lanka's maritime boundary. Experts say the lack of study of the Sri Lanka dome has made it difficult to predict the weather. A Newsfirst exclusive. 6 suspects, including the chief suspect in a recent spate of murders and shootings in Tangol, remanded. And now for the stories in detail. After a lapse of 3 years, 11 sailors, including 2 Sri Lankans who were held hostage by Somali pirates, have been released. International media reports say the group was released in the Giliankani area in Somalia on Friday.
The Somali pirates had released the 2 Sri Lankans, 7 Bangladeshis, an Indian and an Iranian, who they had been holding hostage. International media reports say that no ransom was paid to secure their release. Sri Lanka's acting High Commissioner in Kenya, Sampath Mantranayake, said the sailors, including the 2 Sri Lankans, are currently being sheltered in Nairobi, adding that steps will be taken in the coming days to repatriate them. He said that statements are being recorded from the sailors at present. Niroshan Pereira was one of the sailors on board the Malaysia-flagged MV Albedo, who were released by the Somali pirates.
We just want our son back. He told us that they were feeding him boiled greens, similar to what is given to cattle. He told me that he would not cry as he was happy to hear my voice.
We
went everywhere, but no one gave us any consideration. My son suffered a lot, but now he has been released.
Chandrasiri Pereira served as the 3rd engineer aboard the MV Albedo. On several occasions since the MV Albedo was hijacked in 2010, Newsfirst has reported on the plight of the sailors, including the 2 Sri Lankans. The Malaysia-flagged vessel, which was hijacked by pirates on the 26th of November 2010, was crewed by 23 men. The vessel was hijacked by the pirates 900 nautical miles off the coast of Somalia in the Indian Ocean. Reuters news agency, quoting the pirates, reported that the MV Albedo had sunk. The report noted that 4 of the sailors and 7 pirates drowned when the vessel sank.
Experts opine that it has become increasingly difficult to predict the weather in Sri Lanka owing to various natural and artificial causes. Dr. K. Arulanandan, the principal scientist at the Oceanography Division of the National Aquatic Resource Research Agency, says that weather patterns are increasingly difficult to predict owing to the lack of study of the Sri Lanka dome, a natural phenomena in the Indian Ocean to the east of Sri Lanka which recirculates monsoon currents. Now, in a special report on World Ocean Day, which falls today, Newsfirst Katrina Chang caught up with Dr. Arulanandan to explore the ties between the ocean and changing weather patterns.
About half of the world's population lives within the coastal zone, and ocean-based businesses contribute more than $500 billion to the world's economy. The Indian Ocean sustains the lives of 250,000 active fishermen in Sri Lanka and their families. The fisheries sector also generated $246 million in export earnings in 2013. Sri Lanka's beautiful beaches also attract hundreds of tourists to the country, bringing in valuable foreign exchange. However, the harmful practices of some both locally and internationally have an adverse impact on our seas and the ecosystem sustained within them. I met with Dr. K. Arulanandan, who is the principal scientist of the Oceanography Division at the National Aquatic Resource Research Agency, or NARA, to better understand the implications of climate change and the impact it has on the Indian Ocean.
So what we are seeing is that predicting is that the potential fish catch will be lesser, and also the biodiversity in the tropical Indian Ocean will be lesser due to this climate change and its impact. We have to reduce the rate of degradation of our ocean. Otherwise, we may have very bleak future for our future generation.
The oceans also play a major role in determining weather patterns, which in the recent past have fluctuated greatly. Dr. Arulanandan told me about a Sri Lankan dome in the Indian Ocean which regulates the monsoon and wind patterns.
The recent studies indicates that it is a Sri Lankan dome, a pool of water just lying off the east coast, which regulate the monsoons and the wind patterns and weather and the climate in the Indian Ocean. We are little far away from predicting and forecasting the potential extreme weather events which is driven by the Sri Lankan dome. What I would suggest that there should be a concerted effort by the northern Indian Ocean nations to understand this phenomena and its importance and significance in the driving this extreme weather events and its impact on the climate change.
No matter how far from the shore you live, the oceans impact your life and those around us. It is time to make a change. I'm Katrina Chang reporting for Newsfirst.
An enlightening insight into why it has become difficult to forecast current weather patterns with precision. Well, several parts of the island, particularly in the southwest, continue to be affected by extreme weather conditions. Florin Rajendran joins us from the Weather Centre with the latest. Florin?
The Met Department issued a warning today that wind speeds in sea areas off the coast extending from Kankesanture to Portugal via Galle could reach up to 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. The Met Department forecast that sudden swells may occur in these sea areas, adding that other sea areas could also be rough. The department says that the fishing and naval community across the coastal belt should exercise caution if setting out to sea. Meanwhile, gale force winds blew across areas coming under the purview of the Bope Podala Divisional Secretariat in the Galle district this morning.
The Panidenia, Panvila, Meepavala and Poddala Grama Niladhari divisions were affected by the gale force winds. 18 homes sustained damages while 2 homes were destroyed. Trees that were felled by the winds damaged the Amarasuriya Central College in Meepavala and the Meepavala Health Centre. The cleanup operation got underway today on the Horonamatugama road to remove rock and earth that fell on the road during a landslide in the Bodhikanda area in Kobabaka. However, owing to the continued risk of landslides, a 3-kilometer stretch of the road has been declared a danger zone and the use of heavy vehicles on the road has been prohibited. The electricity supply to the area continues to be disconnected owing to the landslide risk. Meanwhile, efforts were underway in the Agaloya area in Bulat Sinhala on the Horonamatugama road today to restore the electricity supply to the area. Owing to the continued risk of landslides in Ambagaskanda Mahagama in Agalawatta Matugama, residents in the area have been evacuated.
We have been asked to evacuate this place, but we have nowhere to go. No one has come to look into us as yet.
Meanwhile, the National Building Research Organisation says that people living in southwestern parts of the island, which have been deemed to be prone to landslides, must evacuate immediately in the event of heavy rain. The NBRO says that the Kalutara, Galle, Noora Elia and Ratnapura districts have been identified as at risk areas.
If we are cautious of the warning signs, then we can minimize the damage and the loss of life.
The Disaster Management Centre says that close to 6,000 people who were displaced by floods, earth slips and landslides brought on by the extreme weather conditions are continuing to be sheltered at camps. The Met Department, meanwhile, is forecasting continued intermittent showers and thunder showers in the central, Sabargamuwa and western provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Well, the Newsfirst Weather Centre is keeping a close watch on the developments and will keep our viewers informed as and when updates are available. For now, it's back to you to the main news desk, Arundhati.
Thank you, Florin, for that comprehensive update. Now, meanwhile, 73 Indian fishermen who violated Sri Lanka's maritime boundary have been taken into custody by the Sri Lanka Navy. Navy media spokesperson Commander Kosala Varnakula Surya says the Navy also seized 16 boats.
32 Indian fishermen were arrested in operations conducted in the sea area of Deft Island at dawn today. Navy media spokesperson Commander Kosala Warnakulasuriya added that 8 boats were also seized in this operation. He added that the fishermen and the boats were brought to the naval base at Kankasanture. Meanwhile, another 41 Indian fishermen who violated the maritime boundary were arrested in the seas of Thalaimana. The Navy media spokesperson said steps were taken to hand over the fishermen to the fisheries inspector in Mana. He added that the fishermen were arrested for violating the maritime boundary and violating a bilateral agreement to not use prohibited fishing methods. The Minister of Fisheries says steps will be taken to release Indian fishermen taken into custody for violating the Sri Lankan maritime boundary as soon as possible following legal proceedings. The Secretary to the Ministry, DMRB Disanayaka, said that these steps are to be taken as a goodwill measure for the betterment of bilateral relations. He, however, added that hasty steps will not be taken to release fishing boats and other equipment that has been seized, further noting that all measures taken with regard to the Indian fishermen are being undertaken on the orders of the Attorney General. The Ministry of Fisheries said they have requested Indian authorities to release 94 Sri Lankan fishermen and 17 boats currently in Indian custody as soon as possible. The committee of officials appointed to resolve the Indo-Lanka fisheries dispute is due to convene once again next month. The Fisheries Ministry says Indian authorities have invited them to attend this meeting. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha Jayaram has requested Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to provide a permanent solution to prevent the arrest of fishermen from the state by the Sri Lankan Navy. In a letter to the Prime Minister, she notes that 82 fishermen were arrested off the coasts of Delft and Thalaimana. The Hindu newspaper reports that the fishermen arrested by the Navy hail from Rameshwaram and Jagadapatnam. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister informs the Prime Minister in her letter that the dispute can be resolved through the requisitioning of the Kachathivu islet and bilateral talks. Indian media reports say the fishing community in Rameshwaram has commenced a strike demanding the release of fishermen in Sri Lankan custody.
Our correspondent in Jaffna says that the group of Indian fishermen who were arrested off the coast of Delft have been brought to Jaffna from the naval base in Kankasanture. He added that a 15-year-old boy was among the group of fishermen who were arrested. Our correspondent notes that the group will spend the night at the Fisheries Department office in Jaffna and that they are due to be produced before the Kites Magistrate tomorrow. Six suspects, including the chief suspect in a series of murders and shootings reported recently in Tangol, have been placed in remand custody.
The police media spokesperson said that these suspects are connected to the recent murder of a conductor at the Tangol bus stand and the shooting of the individual known as Ami Amila. At a media briefing held this morning, the police media spokesperson said that among the arrested persons is also the person identified as Palikuda Ukkuwa, who is alleged to have masterminded these crimes.
Tangalla Pradeshe මේ වන විට සිද්ධීන් කීපයක් වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Several incidents were reported in the Tangol area. Yesterday, we arrested the motorcyclist who is connected to the incident near the Tangol bus stand. We also arrested another individual who is connected to many incidents, including 2 special cases. We are carrying out further investigations.
එම සිද්ධීන් දෙකකට සම්බන්ධ ප්‍රධාන පුද්ගලයෙක් ඊ අපි අත්අඩංගුවට අරගෙන තියෙනවා. ඒ සම්බන්ධව අපි පරීක්ෂණ පවත්වාගෙන යනවා.
Meanwhile, it has been revealed that the same group of suspects who kidnapped 2 police officers in Kurunegala and murdered one of them shot and killed a 19-year-old youth in the Udugampal area in Gampaha. The police media spokesperson said that this group is also suspected of robbing a jewellery store in the Nigambo area.
On the 8th of March, an armed group who arrived at the shop in the Askirivalpole area in Gampaha shot and killed a 19-year-old youth. Police said that the wife of the shop owner was admitted to the Gampaha hospital with injuries, while injured 19-year-old Nipun Anuranga died upon admission to the hospital. Nipun, who was an advanced level student of the Jnanodaya National School in Divulapitiya, was a talented tabla player.
Kurunegala police කොස්තාපල්වරයාගේ ඝාතන සිද්ධිය සම්බන්ධයෙන්
While we were carrying out investigations into the murder of a police constable in Ududumbara Kurunegala, it came to light that Kahandawala Arachchige Tharusha Niluka, alias Tharuka Nilan, is the individual who also shot and killed this youth. These incidents are connected.
සිද්ධියක කොටස් වේවැල්දෙනියේ නාරම්මල මේ සිද්ධි සියල්ලම මොවුන්ගේ එකම සිද්ධියක කොටස්.
Police have requested for the help of the public to apprehend a suspected LTT member who evaded the police in Mana.
පසුගිය 4 වෙනිදා මඩු ප්‍රදේශයේදී
When a group of police officers were searching a group of persons on the 4th of June in the Madu area, one person ran away while another was arrested. The arrested individual is Nandarasa Suwandranayagam, a resident of the Madu area. Police seized 15 kilograms of TNT explosives which was in the possession of this individual. When interrogated, he revealed that the one who ran away too has a stock of explosives in his possession. This person who evaded police custody is identified as Gunasekara Mudiyansilage Nilanka Jude Anthony, alias Cyril Nilankam Jude Anthony. Further investigations into this individual revealed that he is also a former LTTE member who went under the name Ilango. He is an explosive specialist. The LTTE buried bombs during the war near Madu and Kanagarayam Kulam. This suspect, Nilanga Jude Anthony, is a person who is knowledgeable on the whereabouts of these bombs.
LTT සංවිධානය විසින් බෝම්බ වලදමා තිබෙනවා. දැන් මේ බෝම්බ වලලපු ස්ථාන ගැන හොඳ දැනුමක් තියෙන පුද්ගලයෙක් තමයි මේ දැනට අපිට අවශ්‍යව සිටින නිලංග ජූඩ් ඇන්ටනි නැමැත්තා.
The police request the public to call 0112 451 636 or 0112 451 634 if you have any information on Gunasekara Mudiyansilage Nilanka Anthony Jude, alias Cyril Nilangam Jude Anthony.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says the country must move forward while protecting the nation's culture, piety and identity. The president made this statement at an event held at the Sri Vimala Rama Vihare in Vallampitiya yesterday.
A 6-story Dhamma school building and an arms hall constructed at the Sri Vimala Rama Vihare in Vallampitiya were declared open by President Mahinda Rajapaksa yesterday. There is a revival underway today. A generation of children who are interested in the Dhamma is being created. We should be able to sit together, talk and work together. We do not need to embrace everything that comes from abroad. We need to embrace the English language that comes from Europe. But we do not need to embrace that culture. We need to decide whether we will embrace everything that they follow. We have our own Sri Lankan culture. I strongly believe that we must take a concerted effort to protect our identity as we move forward.
Speaking at an event held in Tissa Maharama this morning, UNP parliamentarian Sajid Premadasa commented on an example set by the new Indian Prime Minister.
The newly elected Prime Minister of India had convened his parliamentary group and told them to please stop this practice of falling at his feet and worshipping him. He said that as public representatives they should either be working in their electorate or should be coming to parliament and working for the electorate and the nation. He told them to stop wasting time at parliament and to use the library of parliament to broaden their knowledge. He is going to get his parliamentary group to give him a signed promise, a promise to not divulge state secrets. It is only this factor mentioned by Prime Minister Modi that is implemented in our country. Instead of clinging to that one factor, if they implement his great example as a whole, we can establish our country as a nation that shines with the teachings of Lord Buddha.
ඒ උත්තරීතර ආදර්ශ අපේ රටේ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරොත් සම්බුද්ධ ශාසනය බබලවන දේශයක් හැටියට අපේ රටත් පත් කර ගන්නට පුළුවන්.
The event was held to place the spire atop the chaitya constructed at the Amanudahaya Rajama Viharya. MP Sajid Premadasa had made a financial and material donation towards the construction of this chaitya on a prior occasion. The MP made a further financial donation today towards the future development of the Viharya.
2 homicides have been reported from Piliandala and Gampaha. Crime Watch has the details.
A woman was stabbed to death at her home in Markandana, Madapata in Piliandala. The police media unit says that another woman who was in the house at the time was also attacked and sustained serious injuries. The murder victim was a 55-year-old woman. The police say that the woman who lived alone was employed as a security guard at a private apparel factory. The police added that the woman who was injured in the incident had been abroad and had arrived at this residence 5 days ago. The injured woman is said to be a friend of the murder victim's son, who is also abroad.
I was told that there were loud noises coming from Sister Rinzi's home. I called the young men who live at the home across the street and went there and shouted for help.
The police say that the injured woman was admitted to the Piliandala hospital and was then transferred to the Colombo South Teaching Hospital for further treatment. Investigations are underway to apprehend the suspects. A man was killed in a brawl during a wedding reception in Imbulgoda Gampaha last evening. The victim has been identified as Pradeep Tushara Jayawardena, a father of one from the Salia Ashokapura area in Rajanganaya.
My brother-in-law told me that our brother had been beaten, and when we went there to see what happened, the person responsible had left. All we can say is that they were under the influence of alcohol.
The acting magistrate in Gampaha conducted the magisterial inquest this morning.
What is your opinion on the rising tide of crimes that are being reported in the country? Join the conversation on our official Facebook page and have your say. Visit facebook.com/newsfirst.english. Well, up next is a look at Action TV.
The Governor of the Western Province has instructed the Secretary of the Western Province Ministry of Education in writing to submit a report on whether the legitimate procedure has been followed in appointing a principal for Asoka College, Maradana. The notice comes more than 8 months after the appointment of the principal of Asoka College, Maradana by the Provincial Education Secretary. On the 13th of March, the Provincial Education Secretary himself informed Action TV that the appointment was not in keeping with the legitimate procedure. The Secretary also outlined the procedure that should be followed when making such an appointment. From April, we publish a list of all vacancies in the newspapers. All schools which have principals who are not subject to interviews will be included here. The individual who scores high in the interview is appointed as a principal. The Secretary made this revelation 18 days after he himself removed the principal in question, citing his inability to control the school. However, on the 30th of May, this same principal assumed duties at Asoka College, Maradana, against a backdrop where 43 of the 98 teachers who complained about his ad hoc administration were unduly transferred. The improper political intervention at Asoka College, Maradana, which has had a debilitating effect on the education of about 3,500 students, was also brought up in Parliament on Friday. Asoka College is a very popular school in the Colombo district. The Chief Minister has appointed the principal who was removed from Dharmapala College, Kottawa, as the principal of this school in an ad hoc fashion. A major crisis has been created at this school. I request all members of this parliament to do the utmost to secure education in our country. A group of parents recently staged a demonstration against the principal, who has now assumed duties as per the legitimate appointment letter, claiming that his administration has led to anarchy in the school. They were obstructed by another group of persons who had gathered near the school. A group of parents and past pupils of the school, who have dubbed themselves the Organization to Protect Asoka College, claim that parents who question the misuse of school assets are not given the opportunity to attend meetings of the School Development Committee. Among the examples of misuse of school assets cited by this group is an incident that begs mention. There were 4 heads of cattle in our ground. We have a large sports ground in Batramulla and it is possible to raise cattle there as well. The fate of 2 of these cows is now unknown. No steps have been taken. At the very least, there is not even an entry in the school's logbook.
The Uvaparanagama area is steeped in history and culture and will be the scene of the Posun Kalape sponsored by Newsfirst on the 12th of this month. A Newsfirst team visited Uvaparanagama to delve into the rich history of this area, and we were not disappointed.
Special sites mentioned in the epic Ramayana can be seen in Uvaparanagama. The Newsfirst team also set out to find out more about the hidden tunnels in the Sripura mountain. There is a belief held by the villagers that equipment used in spelunking will always malfunction when one enters this specific tunnel. With this warning in mind, our team examined their equipment carefully prior to their descent. As a safety measure, our team tied a string at the entrance of the tunnel so as not to get lost within the earth. As the team descended, they came across a fork in the tunnel with one leading upwards and the other further down into the bowels of the earth. The daring team opted to descend further. It is also mentioned in historical tales that King Ravana had used this tunnel to hide Princess Sita.
We have descended about 150 meters into the earth. We can clearly see another tunnel branching off to the left. We will continue our descent.
The team were unable to find the end of this network of tunnels. As they descended further, the lack of oxygen became more and more evident, and the threat from the scores of bats clinging to the ceiling of the tunnel was also not lost on the team. A well-equipped expedition into these tunnels will no doubt prove to be the experience of a lifetime and will also help better our understanding of the complexities of the ground beneath our feet.
In business news this evening, latest government data has revealed that the cost of importing crude oil dropped between January and April this year. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation had purchased crude oil for $2.50 less per barrel in April than it did in January.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka disclosed the prices paid by the CPC per barrel of imported crude oil from January to April this year. This data shows that the CPC paid $112.75 per barrel of crude oil in January and that the price dropped to $110.25 come April. Accordingly, the CPC purchased crude oil at $2.50 less per barrel in April in comparison with January as a result of a dip in world oil prices. However, a notable feature is that Sri Lanka had purchased crude oil at a higher cost per barrel than the price in the Brent market. The CBSL attributes the high price to the fact that the CPC imports oil on contracted prices.
The question that is being asked is if the purchase price of crude oil has fallen in the last few months, why is that not being passed on to the consumer? What we found out just the other day, and we would like the government to clarify this, is we understand the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation at an arbitration hearing recently agreed that they had defaulted the bank on the hedging transaction and had paid $24 million. Then obviously the Petroleum Corporation cannot pass on any cost savings to the consumer because it has already used up that savings to pay the hedging losses.
The award-winning film Sri Siddhartha Gautama was screened at the Anakatawa Sri Vivekarama Vihara in Halmilla, Dambulla last evening.
Parallel to the screening of the film Sri Siddhartha Gautama, devotees were also granted an opportunity to pay homage to sacred relics.
As members of the Mahasangha in this area, we bless the Sirasa Media Network for the meritorious deeds they are carrying out and for screening the film Sri Siddhartha Gautama free of charge.
Sirasa will be blessed for coming to this poor rural agrarian community and screening this film. It is a very valuable opportunity.
I pray that they will receive the strength and courage to carry out such programs in the future as well.
And up next is Sports First investigative journalism segment, The Bitter Truth.
The 4x100 meter relay team, which qualified for the World Athletics Championship and national champions Nadika Lakmali, Sachit Maduranga, Supun Viraj Ramdenia and Mahesha Veerasinghe have faced many tragedies in the recent past owing to the deterioration of the integrity of sport in the country. Udaya Viraj Veerasinghe joined this list of athletes today. Although Udaya qualified at the qualifying games held on the 17th and 18th of May to compete in the 4x100 meter relay at the upcoming Commonwealth Games, sports authorities failed to secure accreditation forms for him. As a result, Udaya has been deprived the opportunity of competing at the Commonwealth Games.
He has been training for 4 years to reach this level. However, owing to the lack of a proper program at the Athletics Association, he has been deprived of an opportunity to bring acclaim to the country. It is the Athletics Association that is responsible for the development of athletics in the country. However, when such incidents occur, the question arises as to whether they are doing any service to the nation.
Although the Athletics Association too accepts that Udaya has been wrong through the failure to secure accreditation forms for the Commonwealth Games, they are not prepared to bear the responsibility in full. The Association Secretary Prema Pinnavala says that the team for the Commonwealth Games was selected in keeping with the qualification process. The Secretary added that the responsibility of preparing their accreditation lies with the National Olympic Committee. In response, the Secretary of the National Olympic Committee Maxwell De Silva says the committee cannot bear this responsibility. He added that the issue had been created owing to the delay on the part of the Athletics Association in submitting the list of athletes. De Silva adds that such delays are a constant occurrence. However, athletics coach Sunil Gunawardena says that neither the Athletics Association nor the National Olympic Committee can free themselves of this responsibility.
The next question I have is whether a team has been selected for the upcoming Asian Games. If not, is there sufficient time for the selection process? This needs to be discussed immediately. Give these athletes the freedom to compete or the sport will crumble in this country.
Doesn't the incessant tug of war between authorities simply lead to athletes being continuously made to face such tragic incidents and the nation being deprived of international accolades? Open for debate.
Well, that's a wrap from the Newsfirst team for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Arundhati Mudannaik. Have a great week ahead of you. Good night.
Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.